President Joe Biden appears to have such a fondness for carelessly tossing classified documents in so many different places, kind of like a happy-go-lucky Santa Claus, playfully hiding the nation's secret in fireplace stockings so that you never know what you might find when you wake up and see some CIA or Homeland Security documents, that at this point, the more relevant question is not where has Biden strewn classified documents, but rather, where hasn't he left them? The story of Joe Biden and the fact that he has so recklessly handled classified information to the point that his own Attorney General Merrick Garland was forced to appoint a special counsel earlier today to investigate the president for possible criminality just a couple of months after appointing one to investigate Donald Trump for the same thing, has many interesting lessons to it about government secrecy and the way Washington leaders abuse and manipulate classified documents. And most of our show tonight will be devoted to examining those really crucial lessons. But we would be remiss and dishonest, as well as I think unfairly depriving you of important entertainment, if we did not confess that this entire episode, given everything that was said about Trump just a few months ago, is one of the funniest things to happen in Washington in months, if not longer. One can almost physically feel the visceral pain of corporate media outlets as they have to report on what happened here, knowing that there's really no way to excuse Joe Biden for what he did and differentiate it meaningfully from what Trump is said to have done. Or at least they haven't been given that way yet by the Biden White House. All week long, more and more stories have emerged about not just classified documents, but top secret documents left by Joe Biden in all sorts of unsecured locations. Today was the most embarrassing one yet, as the CNBC headline notes in a very dry tone, as though this is completely surreal and bizarre, quote, President Biden had classified documents in the garage of his Delaware home. The article explains, quote, classified government documents from the Obama administration were found in a storage space in the garage of President Joe Biden's Delaware home, Biden said Thursday. The disclosure of that latest discovery comes 3 days after Biden's special counsel, Richard Sauber, confirmed media reports that attorneys for the president found a first batch of classified documents from the Biden administration on November 2nd in an office that Biden had used as a private citizen at a Washington think tank. At a White House briefing earlier this afternoon, Biden was asked about all of this by one of the only reporters in that press room who has been willing to ask hard questions of the Biden administration, Fox News' Peter Doocy. Doocy wanted to know, quite reasonably I would suggest, why Biden decided to leave classified documents in his garage. And here, in all of its coherent glory, is Biden's defense.
Mr. President, okay. Classified material next to your Corvette. What were you thinking?
Let me, we're going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage, okay? So it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
So
but anyway,
was in a locked garage?
Yes, as well as my Corvette. But as I said earlier this week, people know I take classified documents and classified material seriously.
So the rest of that was him then reading, after talking about his Corvette, from a notebook that had been given to him, written by his lawyers with the talking points. But I've watched that part of that video that we just showed you at least 10 times today, in part because it's incredibly hilarious listening to Joe Biden talk about his Corvette and where it's kept in this locked garage. But also, it's very difficult to try and make sense of what he is saying, how he thinks this helps him. And as best as I can discern, having listened to this many times now, is that what Biden seems to be saying is the following. Look, you guys know how much I love my Corvette. I love my Corvette. So, of course, I'm not keeping my Corvette just any place, like out on the street, for anyone to come and take it. I only keep my Corvette in an incredibly secure place, my locked garage. So therefore, given how you know how much I love my Corvette, you must know that I would only keep my Corvette in an extremely secured location, and that should be convincing to you, comfort to you, that when I kept my those top secret documents in my garage at my house, that was a really secured location because I even keep my Corvette there, the thing I love most in the world. So apparently, all of this incredibly expensive technology that the United States government develops and pays for in order to maintain secrecy around the most sensitive documents that it has. We tried to build one of those rooms at The Intercept to protect the Snowden archive. We copied the government's manual for how to build rooms that are designed to protect classified information. They're incredibly expensive and complex. Apparently, Biden is saying, all you need to do is just stick them in a garage, and as long as you have a little lock on a garage, everyone knows no one can break into a garage in a house. Not the Russians or the Chinese or the Iranians or terrorist groups who might want to get the most sensitive documents that happen to be laying on the floor of Biden's garage. He seems to be saying, look, you don't need all that whole complex thing that we spent all this money on. Don't worry, I keep it in my garage where my Corvette is, and it's locked. Now, the fact that this is the third time this week that we have heard about new places where Biden has decided to just kind of leave top secret documents laying around has made it impossible even for our press corps to defend Joe Biden, especially because we were subjected to months of melodramatic warnings about the peril the nation is placed in when a president like Donald Trump keeps secret documents in an unsecured location at Mar-a-Lago. And as a result, this pressure just was too much. This kind of cognitive dissonance was too much, even for our culture, political culture that is willing to sustain extreme amounts of double standards when it comes to the two parties, that Biden's attorney general decided today that given that he was forced to appoint a special counsel to investigate Donald Trump for this, there was no way out of him doing the same for Joe Biden. And as a result, he appeared today in the Justice Department and made this announcement.
Good afternoon. I'm here today to announce the appointment of Robert Hur as a special counsel pursuant to Department of Justice regulations governing such matters. In keeping with those regulations, I have today notified the designated members of each House of Congress of the appointment. I'm joined today by John Lausch, the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, who conducted the initial investigation into the matter that I will describe today. On the evening of November 4th, 2022, the National Archives Office of Inspector General contacted a prosecutor at the Department of Justice. It informed him that the White House had notified the archives that documents bearing classification markings were identified at the office of the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement, located in Washington, D.C. That office was not authorized for storage of classified documents. The prosecutor was also advised that those documents had been secured in an archives facility. On November 9th, the FBI commenced an assessment consistent with standard protocols to understand whether classified information had been mishandled in violation of federal law. On November 14th, pursuant to Section 600.2b of the Special Counsel Regulations, I assigned U.S. Attorney Lausch to conduct an initial investigation to inform my decision whether to appoint a special counsel. Mr. Lausch has served as the U.S. Attorney in Chicago since 2017. Before that, he spent more than a decade as an assistant U.S. Attorney in that same office. I selected him to conduct the initial investigation because I was confident his experience would ensure that it would be done professionally and expeditiously. On December 20th, President Biden's personal counsel informed Mr. Lausch that additional documents bearing classification markings were identified in the garage of the president's private residence in Wilmington, Delaware. President Biden's counsel informed Mr. Lausch that those documents were among other records from the period of the president's service as vice president. The FBI went to the location and secured those documents.
So, in other words, Joe Biden is currently under criminal investigation for whether or not he violated federal law in his mishandling, recklessly or deliberately, of some of the nation's most valuable secrets. Now, this is not a story that I would really generally care about for reasons I'm about to explain. In particular, everything in Washington is classified, and that's a very serious problem for reasons that I'm about to describe. But what makes this story so unbelievable is that after 5 years of Democrats insisting that they were this close to getting Donald Trump this time, to getting him in prison where they know he belongs. The walls are closing in. We heard over and over. This is the case where they really thought they had him because it's such a simple and easy case. There were classified materials that you're not allowed to take. If they're still classified, you have to store them only in authorized facilities. Mar-a-Lago is not an authorized facility. Therefore, Donald Trump's taking them there was a violation of the law. Clear, open and shut case. Democrats thought that they'll allow them to charge him with a crime and get what they really want, which is Trump being convicted and rendering him ineligible to run again. The problem that they ran into, however, is that Joe Biden appears to have done exactly the same thing, except he didn't just keep them in one unsecured place, but multiple ones, including the garage of his house where his Corvette is kept. Now, there's also a little other problem. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update. Catch our full shows for free, live weekdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on Rumble, and join our locals community at greenwald.locals.com for all of my written journalism, exclusive after-show Q&As, and more.